the most important websites for data analysis and business intelligence. Let's get started.
If you've decided to learn data science, you've probably already run into a wall. The sheer volume of courses, platforms, and boot camps doesn't make learning easier. It creates an overwhelming landscape that makes starting feel nearly impossible. Part of the problem is that data science isn't a single subject. You are trying to master an overlapping triad: theoretical mathematics, coding syntax, and business logic. Trying to tackle all three simultaneously leads straight into the tutorial trap. That is the illusion of progress you get from spending months watching instructional videos without actually writing a single line of functional code by yourself. The ultimate barrier to entry isn't a lack of educational content. The real challenge is finding a way to balance theoretical knowledge with frictionless coding practice. To figure out what tool you need, we have to establish some criteria. This chart measures platforms on a specific spectrum. The x-axis tracks setup friction, while the y-axis tracks immediate practice. When we plot the 5 most prominent platforms, they inhabit distinct spaces in this ecosystem, addressing separate stages of learning. So the goal here is not to rank these platforms from best to worst. Instead, we are going to map them directly to your specific career stage. Correctly matching the platform to your current experience level is the only reliable way to avoid wasting months of effort. Let's start at the very beginning. If you have absolutely zero prior coding experience, dealing with terminal errors and installing local Python packages creates a massive amount of technical friction and anxiety. This is exactly where DataCamp and DataQuest step in. They are the premier solutions for high-practice, low-friction learning. These platforms rely on a guided IDE. This means they remove the setup entirely, allowing you to instantly write and execute code directly in your web browser. With zero setup, beginners can immediately focus their energy on learning basic syntax and manipulating data. But these perfectly curated, error-free environments come with a critical trade-off. They create a hand-holding illusion. When you eventually graduate from these platforms and try to build a project from scratch on your own machine, you are going to face a severe reality check. These interactive builders are essential for generating early momentum, but they inherently create a dependency that you must eventually break. On the other side of the spectrum is the theoretical learner. This is usually someone transitioning from a non-technical field who needs to understand the why behind the data before they learn the how. 365 Data Science and Coursera are built specifically to address this need for deep conceptual grounding. The required input from you is heavy. You'll spend the majority of your time consuming long-form video lectures and reading extensive documentation. The outcome of that effort is a robust, academically sound understanding of foundational statistics, logic, and algorithmic theory. The massive trade-off here is the lack of built-in practice. You have to rely on immense self-motivation to manually set up external coding environments to test what you learn. While these platforms provide vital academic foundations, relying on them exclusively without pursuing external practice is fatal to building actual coding reflexes. Eventually, you become the aspiring practitioner. You know the basic syntax, and now you desperately need to prove your skills to employers. This brings us to Kaggle. It is the real-world crucible, an environment that demands high practice and requires you to navigate exceptionally high friction. The mechanics here are unforgiving. You are downloading raw, messy datasets, dissecting notebooks written by elite users, and participating in live competitions. Overcoming that friction delivers the ultimate reward. You generate legitimate, portfolio-ready projects that prove to hiring managers you can actually handle uncurated data. This uncurated chaos stands in direct contrast to the safe, guided browser environments of DataCamp and DataQuest. It's also why absolute novices almost always quit if they attempt to start their journey on Kaggle. The friction is simply too high for beginners. But provided you have built the necessary foundation to survive the learning curve, Kaggle is the definitive arena where theory and syntax convert into actual career value. To find the most effective platform, identify the specific tool that solves your immediate learning bottleneck. Let's lay out the decision flowchart. We start with the absolute beginner, who is time-poor and intimidated by software setup. This segment should strictly utilize the interactive tracks on DataCamp or DataQuest to establish basic coding habits before attempting any complex theory. Now, if you are a theoretical learner who needs to understand core data mechanics before writing code, your path branches off toward Coursera or 365 Data Science. Transitioning professionals should rely on this theoretical path to translate their existing business acumen into data science frameworks. But notice the final pathway. Both the syntax learners and the theoretical learners converge on the exact same destination. Once you achieve basic syntax and logic, you must intentionally abandon the tutorials. You migrate to raw datasets on Kaggle to prove your worth. A successful data science education requires a strategic graduation from low-friction practice, or deep theory, directly into the high-friction reality of real-world application.